Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Rock Your Shine After You Have Been Cracked Wide Open. I am, I'm ecstatic, actually. I think that that's a really good word to describe that the guest I have with me today. She is my personal teacher. I work with her on a weekly basis. And I just want to introduce to you Valerie Moon. She is a psychic medium that has extrasensory perception. Most people within the spiritual community describe her healing modality as shadow work, quote unquote. This energetic healing helps to shift deep rooted patterns, behaviors, past life connections, ancestral traumas that we will explain some of this during the interviewing process too, or traumas that have occurred in this current life. Valerie is also a soul seer and actively clears hauntings from houses, land, and or people. She takes an active role to support many practitioners in understanding how to use their gifts. As a healer and mentor, she strongly supports those wishing to make a change and permanently shift into their higher vibration. Valerie holds a BA in psychology as well as certifications in breathwork and Reiki. I want to welcome you wholeheartedly to this
I am
podcast.
so excited about today. Thank you for having me.
I'm a little bit beside myself, so I just have to introduce before we get into some of the incredible work that you are doing with humans to make this world a much brighter and better and more loving place to be as we clean up all of our crap. I wanted to take my own gifts to the next level, and you came highly recommended to me. And I am in contract now to work with you for a year, and I feel like the first few months have flown by, and I just want to kind of slow them
It
down.
does, it goes by quick.
It goes by quick. And we're going to delve deeply into this incredible spiritual work that Valerie does with people. But I just want to say, for someone who has been practicing and doing this work for many, many years, that Valerie she is accelerating my healing as I step more fully into this grief and loss work that I'm doing with human beings. So I just want to
Which
thank
is
you.
beautiful to watch, actually. And the second you called me, I knew we were aligned to work together. I'm like, oh,
So,
she's going to do this.
and I'm just so excited. So let's let's pick this apart for people so that they really understand. You are not the first psychic medium that I've had on. So my listeners are very aware that I am very much into the side of the world, that thin veil that people cannot see, the
Yeah.
energy work that you do. So talk to us about it. Start anywhere you want because I can listen to you forever.
I love it. I mean, like everything really is energy. And I kind of look at our life experiences as like a mirror of what we need to know about ourselves. And you always hear people saying, oh, it all starts from within. All you have to do is love yourself. And it's like so easy to say, but we're not taught how to love ourselves, and all of our experiences, whether it's this life or if you believe in past lives or ancestral issues that are kind of passed down. We're not just given our brown hair and our brown eyes. Like we get characteristics, not always in the positive, through our family connections too. And all of these different energies very much lead our behavior and how we experience people, how we perceive people, how we receive people also, and create a lot of our reality. And so essentially through this work, we dive into all of the things that can block us from being our authentic self. What are these energies that's telling us to behave this way? What are the things that are blocking us from being happy in life? And when you learn how to honor yourself, your needs, recognize your emotions, step into your vulnerability, and be the person you trust instead of handing that trust over to the other people that are around you, you're not having to project all of these expectations with other people because you're providing for you. And it really allows a place of empowerment to come in and expansion within your own life experience. So that's kind of like the gist of it all, with the work that I do.
And I want to delve much more deeply into this idea of, I think people are Well, I know that we're in a global awakening,
Oh
and that
yeah.
people are becoming much more aware of what it means. We've heard the words manifestation since the secret, but I think a lot of people don't quite understand
Oh
what
yeah.
manifestation means and how we do that. And I just did a talk on, because of course this podcast is on the transformations that happen as a result of our traumas and our grief and our loss and all of the things that you are going to be talking about, and what that looks like when we can honor the experience, because we're experiencers, right? That is why we are
Yeah.
here as humans, to
Right.
experience, to honor that, and to let it go so we can lean in toward, we have the contrast so we know what makes us feel good, right? Which is where we
Yep.
can change our vibration. But let's talk about, I think that where people get a little confused and where it gets a little complicated is when we are not talking about toxic positivity, right? We are
Yeah.
not talking about denying the hard things, the amazingly hard things that we feel in this lifetime, like losing somebody we love. So can
Right.
you talk more deeply about this idea of vibration, honoring our experiences, and how we
Right.
transmute that energy, that darkness, into light?
Yeah. I mean, embracing the energy and embracing the emotion is the first step to shifting the awareness. It's all about awareness and deeply knowing yourself. So you have all of these experiences in life, and based on the accumulation of it all creates feelings. The beautiful thing about the existence here is that we do have such a wide variety of emotions that we can experience. And we can really focus on like a negative experience, or we can dive into taking that negative experience and saying, where does this stem from? Like, why am I feeling this way? And really holding space for yourself and recognizing the patterns and bringing in the awareness, like this energy, whether it's from a past life or your ancestors or your own life that you've been through, is creating a fear-based reaction. And that could be blocking me, you know? So even if you look at just a word like abandonment, for example, you know, how do you call in abandonment for yourself? Like, because when you're looking at your experience, you're mirroring what you need for your own healing. And people would say to me, like, how do you call in somebody else to abandon you? You know, how do you call in somebody else to reject you? And it really is the interactions that you're having, the alignment that you're having with the person. If somebody's triggering a wound in you and that wound is leading your behavior, it can create a reaction from another person. So sometimes with abandonment, for example, you know, you're 1 foot out the door because you fear that it's going to happen and you might not be fully present in something. And then that other person might react to you because of the way that you're acting. So we're all bouncing off of each other through these interactions. And it's really about diving into the triggers that are happening, finding the root cause, clearing some of the energy around it, just setting the intention of letting it go and challenging your energy to have a different experience. Hopefully that kind of explains a little bit about how it works.
Yeah, and I'll add a little context too, because I think
Yeah,
that, I think sometimes it is challenging to understand that everything that happens to us is for us. We're calling it in to heal
right.
something, right?
That's a hard concept to grasp,
It's a
right?
hard concept to grasp, because it's like, what do you mean I'm calling this into myself? So
Yeah.
I'll give people a great example of my own life. And so I have worked in corporate America in this world of mental health for 30 years of my life. And I always have practiced this other thing. I've got my little oracle cards, which, don't forget, I always have to draw one during
Oh,
the
I love it.
readings. And so I've always kept a part of myself hidden in my world, because I would censor myself based on the audience or who I felt like I needed to censor. And in
Yeah,
that hiding of myself, what kept showing up for me is I felt like what I had to say wasn't respected, or people weren't hearing me, or whatever. And that was showing up for me because it had nothing to do with anybody around me. The experience was for me to
yeah,
say, oh, wow, I'm having this crappy feeling about myself. Where is this coming from? Because
right,
when we give ourselves the space the space for our experience and the feelings that are coming up, they can move through us and we can let it go. If we
right.
don't and it gets stuck, it's going to keep showing up over and over, because now I'm going to emanate this feeling like nobody respects me or no one listens to what I have to say.
Right.
And so
And it's going to get harder
exactly.
as life goes on. So something that mildly triggered you when you were younger, if you haven't worked through and consciously been a part of healing that, you're going to get more triggers and more experiences until you hit that point where you're just like, I'm
Done.
done feeling this way.
Right.
And, and I need to figure out how to move past it. And oftentimes people don't take that time for themselves to reflect and work through something. We're just so focused and barreling through life, and we're on autopilot half the time. And there's so many other things going on that we don't take time to understand ourselves deeply. And I think,
And on top of that, sometimes we go a step further and we judge the feelings that we're having.
yeah, well, judgment is also a way of us showing us our own wounds. What you
Yes.
judge is different than what I judge, right?
Right.
And so whenever I find myself in a judgment, I'm always like, wait a minute, what's going on with me? Wait, where is this judgment stemming from? Like, where is this wound coming from for me? So yeah, those can also be indicators.
Well, that's what we do. I mean, here we are as we are these spiritual beings in human form, right? And so our higher self is always downloading and talking to us if
Yeah.
we get into dialogue. And the only way we can is if we create space to feel, right? Because we are feeling beings. But like a judgment for you guys listening, if you want to know what I mean, it could be like when I'm feeling like, I'm not respected on my team from my perspective that I'm giving to them, that could be a total projection. It may not even be true.
Yeah.
And then I start
Right.
judging myself and saying, why are you even thinking this? And so now I'm not only not giving my space for the feeling, I'm shutting myself down completely. And so now I'm emanating at that vibration. And the only thing the universe can do is keep bringing that experience
Bringing
to
it back.
me in
Right.
all of these different ways because it's being
you're
asked to
you're
be
meant for
healed.
expansion. You're meant
Exactly.
to step into these experiences so for growth, right? And it can be really hard processing all of this independently, right? So when I first decided I was going to dive into shadow work as my modality, it kind of fell in my lap based on my all of my experience, my accumulated experiences. And I'm like, wow, like I have some healing to do and I need to figure out how to do it. And you can feel like, I don't know where to start with all of this. And having a shadow healer, it's not even just so much of the energy healing that's happening where we're clearing out all of these different vibrations to raise your vibration. Having somebody to process with where I can channel like, okay, this is what they're sharing about this energy and how it affects you. And then all of a sudden it clicks and you're like, oh, I do see that pattern. Oh, I do see how this is negatively impacting me. And sometimes not having that awareness can create a block, where if you can't see it, the growth can't really come in. And we do project a lot.
Hmm.
So
I want to back way up. I want you to talk about how you got into this work, how you knew this was a gift that you needed to follow, and then what is the work that you're doing with people? And I can speak to that too with some of the stuff that you're doing with me. But let's start with how you even got into this shadow work.
I'm going to be completely honest. It was through my whole life going into self-destruct. Okay. Like we were talking about, we face the patterns and the patterns. I've always been very energetically sensitive. I didn't understand my gifts for a very long time. I just felt everything around me in a very physical way. I'm clear cognizant where the intuition comes in a way of knowing. And it's really hard to separate like what's a thought, what's an intuitive hit, what am I feeling? Is this a perception through trauma? Is this coming from spirit? Like it was very overwhelming. And I got to a point where it was just I couldn't not step into it. And it was kind of creating a lot of chaos in my life by me not understanding what was happening. And so I decided to deep dive into my own journey for myself. And then I was like, oh, wow, this is powerful. And I want to share this with the world. And it drove me with such passion that it drove me to what I'm doing now, which is supporting people clearing those patterns and stepping into their sovereignty. Like we are all gifted. We all communicate energetically. And I think people really don't understand what that means. We're reading the room, we're reading energy. We might all of a sudden think of someone before they're calling, and we're actually just communicating energetically all the time. And people just don't understand what that means. And so I love it's all about empowerment at the end of the day. I want everyone to know that they can have the same experience. I went most of my life not using my gifts, and here I am, and it's my whole world now. So
I get a lot of questions, as you can imagine, over the years as a therapist, and not just with clients, right? Because I used to train clinical teams, and
yeah,
this would come up for them too, like, what is my purpose? And our purpose is to lean into what brings us joy so we can
yeah,
shine our light and vibrate.
exactly.
Because when we are doing what we are joyful about, then
Yeah,
our aura, our light shines brightly. And guess what? Once we create more light in the world, that is what heaven is. When we
it is.
understand our connection and that at our essence is love. So let's talk about this, because what I talked about with people who are in deep grief is that you can't rush it. You must
No,
allow yourself the
yeah,
space to feel the grief, right? Not
yeah,
to shut it off, not to try to run away from it where it gets stuck and wreaks all sorts of havoc, from mental health issues to physical issues. I want you to talk to us about what shadow work is. How do you help people move through and clear out and really completely embrace the power and essence of who we are as creators?
yeah. I always start with, it's like a discovery call where we're openly talking about the experiences from when you were younger. Because most of the patterns and what we're going to work through with the work that I do, it all gets triggered at a really young age, so that childhood experience is what kind of like leads everything that you're going to kind of face in life. And so the discovery call is really an important aspect because they'll show the vibrations that we're working to clear out. So what I mean by that is, like, someone will call us like an ancestral cord, an ancestral line, where I brought up different things like, self-sabotaging behavior or addiction or rejection, or, those feelings of not being good enough. Those vibrations you hold all of these memories in. And so we kind of like map out like how these vibrations are affecting your life in a negative way. And we dive in, one vibration at a time. So instead of like just kind of skim coating the surface with like a Reiki session, which can be really beautiful, don't get me wrong, that's really good in staying in a balanced state. But we are deep diving to like those deep issues that create behavioral patterns, that are not supporting your authentic self. So authenticity is like the most powerful force. Okay. And, outside of divine love and source energy, when you are connected to your authentic self, you can do anything in life. And all of these vibrations that we're kind of working through with our time together is those are the things that block you from stepping into your authenticity. So like if you carry that feeling of not being good enough, you might put up walls, you might isolate yourself, you might block yourself from experiences because this energy is telling you, listen, you're not good enough. And feel all of this energy that supports that in remembering every experience where you felt that way, so we deep dive into that work. And as we communicate and bring the awareness, the energy starts to pull up, whether it's a past life, a trauma, or whatever the case may be. And through these intentions of working through it, we clear out that energy. So it's not as triggering, where you can be like, I am good enough. In fact, we're all in the same playing field here in this existence. We all deserve to be happy. We all deserve to have love. We all deserve to have financial abundance. And I think I deserve it too, and you can block yourself from your happiness from these energies just kind of sitting in your space. Say this belief system, these conscious identities that we create, whether it's through social constructs or just the way that we were raised, it can be really defeating. And so that's how it works. Does that kind
Yeah,
of make
no,
it?
and yes, I think that that is beautiful. And I'm going to give a really concrete example since I've been working with you to kind of make this very practical for people. So I'm a social worker, right? I'm a clinical social worker. And social workers, I went to school for it. It's grassroots stuff, really trying to create change for the people, for people who are oppressed and all of the things. And so that is very much a part of my thought. So when I left my work to create this, my own company, I had a very difficult time thinking about charging people because of that belief system that I held of being the social worker and that I am here to help people. And the block was allowing that for me to receive because I can't do this work without getting paid because I'd have to go off and get another job. And that's not
Yeah.
what I want to do. I want to do
Yeah.
this piece in helping people heal. So through the work I did with you, I wasn't looking at that as a block to receiving income. And after we did this healing, I had this out of the blue, this gift that actually paid for 2 months of my work with you.
Yes.
That literally, like, it was the most astounding thing. I didn't
It
even
was
know.
beautiful. I
It was
believe it happened in
beautiful.
like a week. You were
It
like, I
did.
don't know
It
how I'm
did.
going to do this. And I was like, Susan, literally just tell them what you need and just surrender to that. They're going to provide for you. And then all of a sudden, I get an anonymous phone call saying, I'd like to pay for 2 months of this. And I was like, no way. I was really laughing, but it's also so beautiful when those moments happen, when you can just surrender and say, you know what, I'm in alignment and everything's going to work out and this is how it's going to happen.
Right. And it is. And when I was talking about judging ourselves, it is literally loving yourself through whatever experience you're having.
Yeah.
And, like I was working with a couple who lost their son and they had a tremendous amount of guilt. He had an
Yeah.
accidental overdose. And I said to them, what it sounds like to love yourself through the guilt is to say, I love myself in this feeling of guilt that I did something and I'm having this experience, whatever language you want to point to it, rather than judging yourself for carrying the guilt. And I want to make sure listeners hear what I'm saying. So if you want to reword this, please feel free, because it is loving ourselves through the experience that we are having
Yeah.
rather than judging it, because that is what also shifts the vibration to love rather
Right.
than
And
conflict.
yeah. So the thing about like guilt or shame or like forgiveness stuff, like if you're struggling with that, you're going to continue to hold on to the energy behind it. And that makes it really hard to heal through it. You know what I mean? And so a lot of the work is like, just getting to that point where you can release those feelings. Like I can look at myself 10 years ago and I can certainly be ashamed in many ways, but I'm not going to do that. If it weren't for those experiences, it wouldn't have led me to the awareness that that's not an experience that I want to have. Do you know what I mean? And so you're not ever living a life wrong. You're never doing it wrong.
Right.
You're exactly where you are is exactly where you need to be for your healing and your growth and your self-love to come in. And in the experiences with you with people, it can be really hard to let go of some of those emotions because it feels so final. And what I love about what I know that you're going to step into is your ability to communicate with people that have passed on. And I'm going to share it if you haven't, because you are so connected in that way. And what much more of a beautiful way to bring in healing for other people, but to create that line of communication where any negative feelings that are still being held can be released through that moment, you know?
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful. This is one of those situations where I wish we were live so people could ask their questions, because
Yeah.
I can literally hear all of these questions coming in that I know
Yeah.
people would just like, we'll have to do a live session
I'll do
one
a live with
day.
you for
Yeah.
sure. So me like just actually announcing for you to the world that you're an actual medium.
No, I know I'm trying to gloss.
I'm ripping that band-aid off for you today because you are. And if you don't know, now y'all know. Um,
Well, thank you for that. You are, I know that I channel spirit when I'm working with people, but in terms of owning the mediumship piece, you're right. I am still working on that with you.
yeah, you are. And it's actually amazing and beautiful, but also in the line of work that you're in is just going to support so many people because in those moments where it feels so final, you know what I mean? Where you feel like you can't express what you need to your loved one, that type of work can be so healing for people.
Yeah,
And you
it's huge.
yeah, that confirmation and that acknowledgement that you need where you can fully let that go. And I think that's also like a big part of what I do in channeling spirit too, where, I'm not the one advising anybody in this work. When we're talking, they're telling me exactly what you need to know and how it needs to be said so it can be received. And that's just a really powerful force in the realm of this work and just finding yourself and making your way through this crazy life that we all have,
Right.
you know.
And you're speaking about our higher guidance. And that's why,
Yeah.
guys, that is why whether you go to somebody like Valerie or some other doing energy work, you are clearing your channels so that you have your own clear line of communication with your higher self. Sometimes we call it intuition. You all
Yeah.
have it. As Valerie said, we are all channels. It just gets very muddied when we get up inside of our ego. And
Yeah.
right? That's what
Yeah.
happens. And
That's exactly
so
what it is.
you're so clear in your channeling that when I'm with you, we are tools, we are vessels. That's all we
Yeah.
actually really are when we get the hell
Yeah.
out of our own way
Yeah.
and honor our humanness. But that's what it is. I think that is the clearest. It's like, people who believe in mediumship go to mediums so that they can feel some level of comfort around their
Right.
loved ones. And we know that grief is a very dense energy, right?
It
So when we
is.
start to move through that and we can change that vibration because they have a much higher vibration than we do, right? So we have to lift our vibration. They bring theirs down a little bit and then we can
Yeah.
communicate,
It's
right?
true. Well, energy is a language in itself.
Right.
We took the time to learn how to walk. We learn how to speak a language. We can speak another language if we decide to. Energy is no different. And so it is just another form of communication that we are all able to do. And so the interesting thing about it is when you're receiving or reading vibrations in general, if you have lower vibrations or triggers within yourself, it can shift the perception of what you're receiving in. And that's why healing yourself first is always what makes you a more powerful healer or more powerful vessel. Because you're kind of clearing these wounds that would create a channel to not be clear. You know what I mean? And so I always encourage any healer to kind of do their deep diving work on themselves because it's a perception of this energy. Like this energy means this.
Mm-hmm.
This energy means this, and if you're reading it through a broken lens of your own wounds and something feels familiar or alarming or triggering, you're not going to get a clear message. Even when you're tapping into trying to share something beautiful from beyond as a medium, like this could feel alarming and it might not be the message you're receiving. So it does take time to really perfect that, but all of us can do it.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted you to get into now because an analogy I always use is that most of us cleanse, right? We take a shower, we brush our teeth, like we do these things to keep our body clean. And the same is true for our energy fields. Our energy fields get all mucked up, right? When we're around
True.
each other, when we pick
Yeah.
stuff up and we don't know what belongs to us. That's why with a global pandemic like we had, that we were all reeling from that trauma.
Oh gosh.
It was ripples of energy and
Oh,
fear
that
that we were
collective
all
energy
feeling.
was fierce.
It
Yeah.
was fierce, right? And
Yeah.
so that's why sometimes people will be like, I don't even understand why I'm crying, because sometimes it doesn't even
Right.
belong to you, right?
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't
True.
belong to you. But just like taking a shower, we also need to be aware and to clean our insides, right? We've heard of
Yeah.
chakras. Talk to us about our chakras,
Energy centers.
our
So
energy.
we have seven main energy centers that are kind of responsible for different aspects of our existence. So you have like your root chakra is the very material, physical. You have your sacral, that's your joy, your emotions, your relationships. Like each one kind of represents a different reality within this human experience. And so, if you're having, let's just talk about if you're triggered in a situation, that energy is then fed through your chakra system and it can throw your energy centers off balance, right? Creating a reaction, right? So, like, let's say you're triggered, somebody does something to you, you get angry. Where is that anger stemming from? Well, all of that, again, that accumulative energy that you have sitting in your body, it's kind of like a filing cabinet. You're pulling up all the files. This is the way I'm supposed to react. This is my experience. You have hypervigilance around situations, and then your root chakra can go overactive. And when that happens, it can create anger. And then that's very hard to control, right? So the idea of this work is, as you're going through these filing cabinets and you're like, okay, I don't need to exist in this trigger because I'm creating safety for myself, or I'm creating healthy communication for myself. And we're transmuting that energy so it doesn't throw your chakras out of balance. Because once you're in that triggered state, it's very hard to control the reaction that you're having, right? When you're mad, you're mad. When you are in a place where you aren't feeling received and your throat chakra goes underactive, you don't want to talk. And that very much feels like your reality. Like, I feel like I need to yell, or I feel like I don't want to speak, or I feel like I want to sob uncontrollably, right? And our energy centers lead our reality based on all of this energy that's in our aura.
Yeah, and so
So,
I love that. So let's talk about, because I pulled the card, you're not even going to believe it. Every time I pull one of these cards during a conversation, it makes me laugh.
let's hear
So
it.
I gotta just show it. So it's called, I don't know if you guys can see how beautiful this card is. Sometimes the light gets in the way, but it's flexibility or flexible. I
Yeah.
gotta read what it means though, okay? So
Okay.
I'll read the essential meaning and then I'll read the message. Teachability, open-mindedness, being adaptable without compromising what's most important. So
Yeah.
here's the prosperity message. Okay, guys, so when I pull a card, it's always about the conversation we're having, but it's also there is somebody out there who needs to hear this message today. So pay attention and see if it resonates with you. Even when you have a clear vision of how you're going to manifest something, what it will look like, who will share in it, and what will then be available to you, you still need to relax and open up to other possibilities.
Yeah. Release that control.
Release control, and that's why I'm reading it now, because we're going to talk about that. I think some of the real misperceptions are about what it means to manifest. It's not about imagining the Lamborghini showing up in your driveway, right? And then suddenly it's
Yeah.
there. So we'll talk about that in a second. Spirit may have much better plans for you. It could be a job you hadn't thought of, a new source of money, or some other opportunity that eluded your imagination. Be flexible and remind yourself this or something better. Manifest for me now. Then be willing to bend a little, be flexible, and enjoy the miraculous results. Okay, so of course, this is exactly what we've been talking about today
Yeah.
in terms of our vibration. Talk to us specifically about this language around manifestation.
Well, a lot of times our reactions or our ability to see our future is based on our logical understanding of how it's going to happen. And that's our biggest block. You know, if you see your future, it has to happen this way. And this is the only way you see it because this is the only way you can logically understand how it can happen. And if you don't see that as feasible in this moment, then you can't create that for yourself. And so, it's really about releasing the control around it and saying, I don't need to know how this is going to happen in life. I don't need to understand in this very moment how my happiness is going to come in, how my abundance is going to come in, how, my relationships are going to, stabilize. It's really just about saying, I want this, I deserve this, and I'm going to just allow it to unfold and honor myself along the way. If something it feels like it could be blocking me as it arises in the realm of where I see myself in this life, I'm going to stop and pause and be like, what do I need right now? And just really be there for yourself instead of just blocking the whole situation altogether.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that too. So,
Yeah.
what we were talking about earlier, you don't have to wonder or ponder what it is or where your blocks are. Just look at what's showing up in your life.
Yeah.
We get feedback every moment of our day. We are always experiencing. So if you're seeing a theme, if you say, like I said, well, how come no one on my team seems to listen to me? And if it, I had a friend say to me the other day, everybody takes advantage of me. And we
Yeah.
stopped and I really helped her. I said, okay, let's talk about this. It's showing up for you for a reason. When's the
Yeah.
first time you felt like that? Well, it was back when she was 7 or whatever it was.
Right.
You're
Childhood. Yeah.
always being given information about what needs to heal. If
Yeah.
someone irritates us, for example, it's not that they're irritating, it's that they are triggering something in you that is asking to be healed. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. Again, this is about understanding yourself deeply, right? So the situation you were talking about where, you're being taken advantage of, you're giving the people around you the control of your experience, where you're going to give, or self-sacrifice behavior, or, but you're not pausing to be like, wait a minute, does this need to be an exchange? Do I have the emotional bandwidth right now to even do this for somebody? What does my week look like? And the thing is, through this work, it really empowers you in having those moments where you do know yourself and you do know what you're capable of. You can have moments where you give to people out of the goodness of your heart, but it doesn't have to be completely draining to self all the time, where you're like, I just actually need to do nothing this weekend. And that might not be ideal. And Sally asked me to do her this big favor, but I know that I also need to take care of me too. And it's really stepping into honoring yourself in those moments, so you're not then resentful of the experiences that you're having. Resentment is a really ugly feeling, but it's actually your own body telling you you're overextending yourself and you're not feeling a two-way experience with another person. The resentment comes in that particular moment where you're giving and you're not receiving. You might be a person that just doesn't feel comfortable receiving, right? But then you're feeling like you're taking advantage of, because you're diving into that natural energetic part of yourself that loves to do for people, but without being able to receive too, you're then having a negative experience, right? So it's about the give and the take, the push and the pull, the energetic exchange, or a monetary exchange for that matter, where it's like, I have something really valuable to share with you. And I know that in order for me to share this value with you and multiple other people, I need to create that for myself. In a perfect world, if I was a billionaire, I'd do this work for free, but that's just not the case right now. And so I have to create that exchange, that give and that take. And so that's a shadow. That's an example of a shadow, right? Where you need to dive into pausing. Why am I feeling this way? And then
Mm-hmm.
saying, wait a minute, I'm not actually receiving either. Am I not able to receive? Like, is that uncomfortable for me? Why is that uncomfortable for me to receive something from somebody? also. Why do I have to be just the giver all the time? And it's a really beautiful thing to be able to receive back, whether it's a beautiful message that somebody sends me or a random gift that shows up in my doorstep, or, actually Merlin was a beautiful gift from one of my clients that I just really missed my dog. And the next day somebody surrendered a dog. And I was like, oh my gosh, my client said, come down to my doggy daycare. And it was the most beautiful moment. And I loved receiving that. But you have to shift that mentality of just being the giver,
And where is it coming from, right? Because there are times that we give and we're not feeling it. We're doing out of some other obligation because we want to be
Yeah.
liked, because we're afraid someone's going to be mad at us. And then I want to go back to vibration, because as soon as you
Yeah.
say yes, out of from an obligatory place and not a place that you really want to, then even though you are physically doing something kind, the energy that you are giving off is anything
Yeah.
but, and you're
Right.
creating more of that. So just remember, we are always contributing. And
Yeah.
how we contribute is our responsibility to be aware of that, always giving ourselves love. That, I
Right.
mean, I
It's a
can't express it
responsibility to
any,
us
yeah.
first. Yeah.
So you've got different types of things that you offer people. A lot of people that watch this show are grieving. And people know that I am not talking just grief over the loss of a person, right? We grieve so many things: a
Yeah.
divorce, loss of a pet, loss of a dream, lots of different things. And you have different types of healings you do with people. I have signed up with you for a full year because I'm going all the way with you. But you do lots of different things in between. I know you've got an incredibly cool thing coming up on the 18th of this month, November 18th, that I'm going to have
I
you get
am
into.
beyond
But
excited about
I
that.
know, but before that, we're going to have your website and all of the things in the show notes. But give somebody a flavor of what you might do with them if they just want to come to you for one session, for example.
So, like you said, it's a variety. So, like, let's say I do offer like shamanic journeying where they're able to practice connecting with their higher self or spirit, right? There's intentional healing where they set their intentions for their month, and it's kind of like set it and forget it, and they have healings done every week. And it's very supportive for the people that have strong intentions and have no doubt. Like, those are powerful healings that I do. There's, where we're working through ancestral lines, those moments can happen with one session at a time at people's convenience, where it's like, you know what, I'm noticing this pattern in my life right now. I just want to deal with this one thing, and that's all I have the capacity for, or understanding your gifts. There's so much that you can dive into. And then there's also my haunted house stuff where, I mean,
Oh, talk about your haunted house stuff. I love this. And
yeah.
I know, you guys, I know there are some out there rolling your eyes. You can go for that, but there are spirits that get stuck, right?
There are, and some people might feel their loved ones very close to them, and it's very real. I have people that are tormented in their own homes, and it's like, that's your safe space. This is where you're supposed to go at the end of the day, where you can just be like, and so I can create that for people, where they might be tormented. I had just a really interesting case a few weeks ago where there was like some entity like tormenting their house for like a year. And it was like such relief when it was over. My gosh. It's like,
How do you
so
do it though? What do you do? Come on, you got to just
my
share with
work
us.
is very remote. I don't like to be in the middle of the hurricane. I like to be in the eye of the storm where I work remotely doing my house clearing. So I clear anywhere in the world. All my work is remotely. And so really tapping into the energy, and it is our free will. We have free will as much as any conscious being, that if something is invading your space and wreaking havoc on you, we do have the authority to just be like, no, not today. And so I kind of go in and clean house for people and their land, and bring in that feeling when you walk through the door and you're like, huh, this feels like a vacation. This feels so peaceful. Like, that's what you want to walk into at the end of the day. So,
Okay, because I think that is really cool stuff, because I know that my home in Bodenham, that I have been told, I know that there are spirits there. I could hear footsteps and stuff. My husband couldn't, and they were, I think, children, they're
Yeah.
playful, and I never had a clearing done of that, but come on, most spirits live, they just do. I mean,
They
there's
do.
a reason that we say haunted houses, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
very, very,
sometimes they just need a little bit support in getting where they're trying to go. And that's another aspect of the work that I do. And I love that so
I love
much.
that.
So yeah, and breath work is also really powerful. You're doing like this really deep breathing exercise and it leads to this very beautiful euphoric state. So if you're somebody that like gets in your head a lot, like you're logic forward, because I'm real logic forward too, which is why like it was, stepping into my gifts, I'm like, my mind is like, no, this isn't possible. Like, no, this isn't happening, and I was like my own worst enemy with it. But breath work, doing the breathing exercise actually like gets you to a point where you're so focused on that you're truly able to let go, and that subconscious experience comes in, and it is like pure euphoria at the end of the breath work session. So there's a lot of different ways to have a healing experience. And even if people come to me for something and I'm not the right fit, because I certainly offer something really unique. The one beautiful thing about my work and training so many different practitioners is they all have something really different to offer. And if I'm not supposed to work with you, I definitely can lead you to the person that you should be aligned to. So, and it's not always me.
Which is I love that too. Okay, so let's move into the special event that you are having. So this is going to come out on Wednesday, which is going to
Yes.
be the 15th, and so hopefully, I don't know if you guys are going to have any tickets left, but we'll see. So tell us
Yeah.
what you're doing on the 18th, because this will not be the last time you will offer something like this.
It's not, but it will be for a little while because this is a breathwork firewalking event. Okay. And so there is so many different ways to heal. I don't like people to be limited in it. I love having and offering different experiences for people. And I have connected with Travis Preston of Wolfpack Healing in New Hampshire, and he's a breath work instructor. He instructs other practitioners on how to be a breath work a firewalk facilitator. Sorry, and so we're collaborating together, and the vibration of what this event is going to offer is so exciting. It's really like shaking you up. You're in this everyday experience. It's very mundane. We're all on autopilot, like I said earlier. And this event really releases that dense, stuck energy. And then you have this experience of walking the fire after, and it just brings life back into you. Fire, the spirit of the fire is like a transmuter of energy, whether you're no matter what religion you're connected to or what belief you have, you always like see the violet flame, or, you look at fire as a transmuter, and it really is a powerful force. And in this particular event, Travis and I read the vibration of what it has to offer. And it really is just like bringing life back to you, bringing your joy, bringing your excitement, and like shaking you up out of your everyday routine. So I am excited about this one.
I know. I am so excited for you. So we are going to have the link to the tickets, and then can you explain how they have to put Susan Dash Casey and they
Oh
get
yeah.
$5 off? Like tell me
Right.
walk them through
So
what they
this
have to do.
this event link will just bring you right to the ticket page on Eventbrite. And the event cost is at $108. If you put in the code Susan Casey, it will give you $5 off the event itself. And then you'll just get your tickets electronically. And so I do hope there are seats left by the time this is posted. I would love to support this being huge. This is going to be the last type of event like that for the year, just because obviously it's outside.
November, yeah. And here we are in
And
New England. It's getting
yeah, but
cold.
when I've done a fire walk in March, and so let's talk about that. I was totally pumped. I loved it. Fire walking is super empowering.
I've never done a firewalk, and
Oh my God.
I know I want to come to this event so bad, but I have a conflict. I'm going to see if I can figure it out, because
I hope you
I'm
can.
desperate to come because I want to try a firewalk. I've wanted to do one forever. I'm terrified, but I just haven't had the opportunity.
It's going to be a force. We matched with the breath work. So the breath work happens first, and you kind of step out of that in a really euphoric state. The music choices are super high vibe and regular music. It's not all spiritual. You know, anyone can do this and just have a blast. And that's what I love about it. You don't have to be deep diving into your spiritual journey to have an experience with this. And I like to offer that kind of stuff with people too, because you don't have to be on any certain level. You don't have to have this crazy connection. Like everyone should be able to enjoy an experience like that.
And
And
where in
so
New Hampshire are we
you'll be
talking?
in Ware, New Hampshire.
Where New Hampshire? WARE.
Weare, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think I'd know living in Maine, but I don't. Okay, so where New Hampshire. And again, we'll have all of the links, you guys, in the show notes if you are interested in if you are, in the New England area and you can
Yeah.
make this happen. Because I think it's like 12 to 4, right? So people have time
It
to
is. It is
travel in the
during the
morning.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's during the day. It's in the middle of the day.
which is perfect because people can travel in the morning to it.
Yeah, and you won't be wiped out to drive home. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The vibe around it is super awesome. And if you've never thought about trying something like that, look into it. It's super, it is literally one of the most empowering things I've ever done, firewalking for sure.
Okay, you're brilliant. You outfit. I'm gonna go. I just have to go. All right.
I
I got
want you
two
to go.
questions. I got two questions to wrap
Okay.
this up. The first question is, what does self-love mean to you?
It is really about honoring all of yourself, every emotion, every need, every moment, holding space for you. I think that for me, fully encompassing that for myself has changed my entire life.
I love that. Finish the sentence for me. Hope is.
Love.
I know it's so true.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Is there anything that you would like to say to my listeners that I haven't asked you?
No, there's nothing I'd like to share outside of, let's see, actually, let's see what channel can come in for everybody, because I personally don't have anything to share. I feel like I shared everything. The mantra. I just want to share with people a beautiful mantra they can start their day with, like, I am me, and that is enough.
Okay. I am me, and that is enough. I love
Yes.
that. Okay, so I want the whole world to work with you because of what you
I
have
love to
done
work with
with
all of them.
me in such a short period of time. So Valerie and I started working together in August. Yeah, I can't even
Yep.
believe it because the changes that have just happened since I have been embarking on this journey with you have been really profound. And I want to thank you for coming on and sharing
Thank
your
you for
beauty.
having me. I
Your
love
beauty and your light.
I love supporting you in this journey. I create connections with everybody in such a deep way because I talk to you guys every week, and it just is so beautiful. I love what I do, and I
I love
love
what
to,
you do too.
I mean, I can say I'm one of the few. I mean, it's beautiful. So thank you for having me though
Thank,
today and
thank you
letting me
so
share this with
much.
the world.
This was wonderful. And again, you guys, check out the show notes. I love all of you. Thank you for always taking the time to listen. I always trust that each of you will take what you need and to help you on your own journey of self-love and self-discovery. So you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all here next week. Bye for now.